You and I met in church
Hmm.
back in, jeez, you remember how many years ago it was?
It was oh
It's
three.
it's more than 10 years.
It was oh 03. So
Oh
19.
three. That is crazy.
Yo,
That is crazy.
19 years.
19 years, almost 20. We rounded up to 20 years.
That's crazy.
But that can't be right because we met. I want to say I was out of high school, so I had to be at least 18.
You were just exiting high school, but we didn't remember we met. And then it took us a while to realize, yo, this is a cool person. This is a person, yo, this person's mad cool. It took some time for me to get to know you guys. I was going to the church and um just getting to know you guys.
Yeah.
Your brother actually, I kind of, your brother stood out to me first before you did.
Hmm.
Because your brother would say, um, he would say stuff that would like jump out at you, like, "Whoa, I didn't know that." Like he'd just throw in some sort of nature fact that nobody knows. And so he jumped out at me.
Right.
I don't know how we transitioned into like, yo, why don't you
Hanging
come
out
over and
regularly,
hang
like
out?
yeah, like seeing each other all the time. I don't know either. It just felt real natural, and it felt like
Yeah,
we got a friendship that, from my side, it felt like once we started hanging out. That's why it's hard for me to remember when we met and how we met and stuff like that. Because I feel like you always been around, even though you
right.
obviously weren't. We didn't grow up in the same area, at least
Yeah, yeah.
school age wise. But I feel like I known you forever, and I seen the evolution, career wise, maturity wise, spiritually, and family. And now we met when we were just kids. Relatively out of high school. You had just been in the Navy, because you had been in the Navy maybe a year or two when we met. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
would
too
say
long.
a year and a half at most when
Hmm.
we officially met. Definitely no less, no more. Um,
And what
my
was your what was your job in this? Like, because I remember you being barber. Was that your actual job, or just something you didn't decide in the Navy?
You know how it works. Every division in the Navy has like multiple responsibilities, and you
Hmm.
cycle
Hmm.
through there. So you're not just an engineer working in the engine. You might work on like a fire system, or you
Right.
might work on an actual engine for like a few months, and they
Hmm.
cycle you. So yeah, the barber shop, the laundry, the ship store,
Hmm.
and the vending machines. Those were our responsibilities.
Right.
Which sounds lame. Um,
You made it look. You had fun, as far as maybe not on the job, because I don't know, because I wasn't there with you. But
yeah,
you always seemed to be positive, and as far as that goes, it wasn't like,
good. It was
I know
good. It
you.
was
I know you wanted
peaceful.
to get out pretty quickly. I knew that you were done with it.
Oh,
But you
definitely.
did. I don't remember you carrying yourself like if this is a living, the worst thing in the world, and I can't wait to get out, and this is depressing me. Even though you might have dealt with that internally, but it wasn't something that I didn't feel that you hated it. Like, you
It's
had
hard.
some moments that you
Yeah.
shared, that you had some good times.
Yeah, no, definitely. You guys helped because there was no way that I was gonna carry on like that around your family and around you guys in church and everybody from church. Church was a lot of fun for me. That's really my only socialization when I was in the service.
Hmm.
My real worthwhile socialization. Beyond that, like I didn't go clubbing and stuff like that, and that's like a big thing that Navy guys do, like drinking and out socializing.
Hmm.
That's always awkward for me because I was never into that.
Right.
Um, but church and you guys were right up my alley. I grew up in church, so that's why we hit it off, kind of, because you could kind of tell from the way I behaved. Um,
Hmm.
but I was actually depressed in the Navy. And I dealt with it. I knew that the clock was counting down. I entered the military service with that in mind, like
Hmm.
with the whole idea that I'm gonna be here for some time. I'm gonna do what I need to do, maybe get some college experience and get out and get out a better man. It wasn't
Right.
that it wasn't that I got to the Navy and realized this. That was the aim the entire time.
Hmm.
Um, and it worked out for me. I stayed out of trouble. I didn't get any bad habits in the military that could crush your life, right? Like, like with women or with like alcoholism or
The law, like, you didn't get in trouble.
with the law. No, which is, it happens to a lot of sailors, and that's the big the big gotcha is years, but then you inundate yourself with debt and responsibilities, and then when the time comes to leave, it's too hard of a decision to make, and you need a job, and the Navy is a job, so you're gonna be jobless again. You're gonna go back to being your 18-year-old self.
Right.
When I left, I just avoided all that, and I kept myself clean of any type of anything tying me to the Navy. So when it was time to come out, it was simple. Um,
But when
and
you left, so I remember, and this is I don't know if you tell this story, if it's something that I don't think it's gonna embarrass you, but I remember that you and I had conversations about there be certain times in the Navy throughout your career where you should be taking like tests or qualifications. And I remember you saying at one point you were like, I don't even study for them. I don't even care about them. I don't try to excel because I'm getting out of here. And I used to tell you,
yep,
but what's the point if you're there anyway? You're gonna do 4 6 years. Why not move up in those 4 6 years?
this is
And
true.
like that happened, right? If I remember that
Yeah,
right.
it's part of my
Um,
psychology.
and I remember looking at you like I felt like at that time I'm like, yo, this is crazy about him. Like, why wouldn't you want to improve? You're
Mhm.
stuck here, so why wouldn't you want to improve at least for the last few years? Get a couple dollars more. Um, but it's interesting to me to kind of see the difference in it's not even maturity because I think what happened with you was you grind it out and you push through stuff that you're passionate about, and the Navy wasn't something you were necessarily passionate about.
Oh no.
Because then I see you now, and now you're super driven. Like you're one of the few people. You're probably the only person I know. Actually, but you know what? To even give myself a little credit, you're one of the few people I know that's actually going in there and researching your own craft and getting better on your own and grabbing books and going to YouTube and learning more.
Yeah.
Um, so how was it? We're talking about the coding side of things, and you said that you started doing that stuff in high school a little bit, like you had the interest. So then
Right.
you end up going to the Navy. But then what happened when you left the Navy? Because me and you actually there was a time lapse where we lost touch a little bit in
We
terms
lost
of like
touch.
you transitioning back to Jersey, and there was some time, the
I would say
adjustment
there
and
was
getting
at
back with
least
family.
we lost touch. I would say like if of our period of our friendship, touch probably decreased like twice. When I left the Navy originally, there
Hmm.
was lapses where I'm doing my own thing, you're doing yours.
Hmm.
Social media isn't this big thing that we're using, so I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
no, that's funny.
hella
As it,
P call
we
and
knew each
tell
other before
yo,
social media.
how you doing, man? Yeah, listen, man. Let me talk to you for like an hour. Just talk. It's not gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Orielsy. Look, it's a flaw in my personality. I don't talk to family often. I don't talk to my dad often like that. It's just something that I feel like I don't really have nothing new to share. I'm doing the same thing I was doing last month, and next
Hmm.
month I'm doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm still going through it,
Right.
and the only thing that's new is perhaps maybe new problems.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have some flaws within myself where it takes a lot for me to open up about that, and that's the only new thing. So I don't want to burden someone else with my burdens and
Hmm.
my trials and things that I'm going through. There's only maybe two men that I do that with. One of them. You look
Hmm.
at him in the mirror every morning, um, and then my best friend Jose. And then
Hmm.
outside of that, I try to just keep stuff in. I even don't like sharing like happy periods, happy it's a real thing I gotta work on. I don't like sharing happy things on social media about myself sometimes because I feel like why should I share that? That's not how I feel right now. Yeah, I could smile for a picture, but I'm going through it right now. My family's going through some issues here. We're going through trials and tribulations around the house. And why should I like share this image of myself if that's not actually how I'm feeling at the state? But I gotta stop that because life is a bunch of peaks and valleys, right? You know, it's never perfect. There's always gonna be valleys and trials and things you're going through.
Right.
So I gotta work on that. But
But you
going
know
back,
what's funny though? Like I don't I feel the same way you feel. And when you say you got to work on it, sometimes I feel like I got to work on it too. But at the same time, I feel like I don't necessarily have to work on it because I got to a point too where I learned to accept myself way more than I used to. I
right?
used to feel like I had to address every little bit of feedback I would get from people. Back when I was way younger, for a small example, it's kind of silly, but it actually affected me when I was way younger. My relationships with females in the past when I was in high school and even as far back as middle school, but talking about high school when you're a little older and there's a better understanding, I used to constantly get criticized about the video game stuff. And I used to like for a long time used to feel like playing video games was like a real negative thing that something was wrong with me. Then I got older and learned, nah, I'm just gonna accept me for me. I got certain hobbies and the right person is gonna accept those hobbies.
Right.
And I say that about communication too. That I feel 100% the way that you described. I feel the same way. Um, I think the difference between me and you is that I could come across like I got a real like it could be interpreted as aggressive or like condescending or arrogant probably. But it's
Yeah.
just like my thing is I got my friends that are closest to me that I could go months on end without talking to. And then when we pick up the phone, there's not conversations about, yo, you forgot me, Fikes, like how long? And now you calling me after all this time. What do you want? We understand that we got lives. Even as a kid,
Wow.
you got a life. You got
Yeah.
a life. I got a life. I'm not holding tabs on how long it's been since you talked to me.
Yeah.
Because that communication goes both ways anyway. So it's like
Yeah.
what I look like complaining to somebody and saying, "Yo, it's been 3 months since you called me." It's like, did I call you? Did I reach out? It's different if I'm blowing you up and you ducking me, or you're just
Right.
non-existent for a long time. Like, yo, I called this dude once a week for 2 months straight, and he doesn't even answer his phone. Then it's a problem. It's like, yo, like, you got a problem with me or something? Like, well, what's up? You don't got 2 seconds to send a text? But I'm the
Right.
same way. And especially when I got a house, when I got married and got a house, my mentality was I didn't get a house to go be chasing everybody else. I got a house to be even more secluded.
Yeah.
I don't be inviting a ton of people over. I'm not reaching out to everybody to see what they're doing. I walk through the front door and I disconnect from the whole planet.
Same here. I lived in New York City. I
Hmm.
lived in New York City, and ask me how many times I went out clubbing. I lived in New
Yeah.
York City for 5 years. Ask me how many times I would. The answer is zero, and it's probably a socializing a person, a more social person's haven. I would say, like, oh, you're in New York City. My God, you can go out to a new neighborhood every weekend and
Hmm.
experience different cultures like you can't anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And guess where I was? I was home coding or gaming. And I mean, obviously, it's not just because I'm not antisocial. I'm a bit closed off to like socializing, but I'm not antisocial. Like when I socialize, I'm very friendly. I'm a clown. I can get myself in trouble for being inappropriate, but but I just, if I'm in a relationship too, I play with the statistics a little bit. I can't get in trouble, you know. Mini me can't get me in trouble if I'm not out where there's females.
Yeah. Now you avoid the conflict ahead of time. I get what you're saying. I get what you're
Play
saying.
with the statistics,
You got to be careful with yourself
right? You
before
gotta
all
protect
things.
yourself. You gotta understand you are a man, a normal, healthy, able-bodied man. And certain things come out when you're in a certain environment. And so you control that and limit that exposure, and avoid going through putting yourself in situations where you make mistakes as a man.
Hmm.
That's something I've always done. I learned that one of the first lessons I learned in the military. And going back to that, you mentioned my nature a bit in the military. Were like why didn't you try hard? You're already in there.
Hmm.
It's a psychological thing for me. I was like that in high school.
I was
I
too. I was too.
I could pull a C or a B out of my behind in any class, without really much effort, unless it was maybe math.
Hmm.
Um, and even then, math is my thing. So it's like people cheat off me. I didn't even study for the test. Oh, I'm gonna get a B. I'm gonna get a C. Unless the class is really challenging, I might struggle with to get a C. That's really hard for me to get a C.
Right.
Um, it didn't. It took college. It took like calculus 2 for me to have to be like, yo, I got to put my head down to be able
Hmm.
to get to pass this course.
Right.
Um, and
But you went to college. What did you go to college for? Did you go to college for coding?
I did. I went to college for coding because that's what it was instilled in my brain that you needed to do.
And you coding, so off rip, you knew
Side.
you were going to code websites. You didn't dabble in any other kind of coding. It was coding for web design.
I always knew I wanted to be a web developer since I was like 15 years old. I was exposed to it in high school, and I knew then this is the future. I don't got to compile my code. Like, let me break it down. When you code, it has to be converted into something that can be displayed as a program on the computer, not websites. A website, I can make one right now, and you can go to my website that I just put up on the internet and view it and use it. And it's a program,
Hmm.
and you don't have to download it. All you got to do is go to the website, and you're there playing my video game, using my program.
Right.
When I saw that, I knew, yo, why would I want to code for computers where people got to download it when I can just code for whatever device people want to come and consume my
Mm.
program? And I was like, oh my god, I just fell in love with it. Bought books, and that was it. Bob's your uncle.
That's funny because I remember, and I think you still do this, but there was a time where you would say that you would buy books and you were giving yourself homework. Like you would read a book and there'd be like a almost like a challenge, like like in the book it'd be like make this site, like it'd give you like instructions, and you were in there like following the instructions and doing stuff just to sharpen your skills and learning different coding languages and stuff.
I don't do that enough nowadays. Um, I did that because I had more time, and now
Hmm.
I've got books here that I haven't read that I've had them for like a year.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's challenging.
But at least you even got the
When
books. At least you got the initiative to start it, right? Like, and you've done it before. And in time, it comes in seasons. Like right now, you're busy. You got a lot of projects going on in the house, and you married, and you got, you have a daughter now. But the fact that you were doing that is crazy. And again, I think
I'll
about
tell
it
you a
looking back,
story.
like what happened.
This will summarize it really well. In my senior year, for my computer science shop, which consisted of about 30% of my high school high
Hmm.
school's classes. 30% of my day was spent in computer science. Um, my senior year, I didn't even take class. The teacher told me to just go sit in the computers, and he
Mm,
taught the rest of the class because of something I did. When I first arrived in senior year, I took the book, and before Christmas, I had all the homework done all the way through June.
mm,
Not that I like doing homework. I don't do homework for no class except computer science. Um, I every class I except in college, every class I ever take, I told my mom I don't like homework. I'm going to school. I grew up in Dominican Republic, and I'm used to going to school till midday in Dominican Republic and going home, and the rest of the day is mine. Now I
mm-hmm,
come to this country, and come to find out, we get home at 4 p.m. from
mm,
school, and we're
yeah.
out at 6 a.m. And it's crazy in this country how, I mean, I understand people got to work, but in DR, it don't work that way. You go to school and come back home midday. Um, and it was a shock to me as a kid to then on top of that have to do homework, and I'm getting home at 4 p.m. So
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm not doing homework. I'll pass the classes. I'll go to school. I get perfect attendance. I'll be a nerd. But when I get home, my time is mine. And to
Right.
this day, I still feel like they got to figure something out with that because often I see kids and I hear about they're telling me, oh, I got to do this homework. Like, I kind of get why this kid doesn't want to do the homework, you know?
Part of it, I wonder. I wonder how much of it has to do with the economy of the United States, how it's set up. Because the reality is that school is used as a daycare.
Eh, that is
It's
the reality. I kind of alluded to that.
yeah, no,
It's a
it's used as a
daycare.
daycare. It's I need my kid to be taken care of for free from at least
Yeah.
from like 9 to 4.
Hmm.
Give me time, and maybe the kid could be alone like for that hour, wait for me to get home or whatever. But they need that time. I think the United States economy would collapse if you got rid of public school.
Right.
In terms of how that affects childcare.
They're trying to change that in DR. They're trying to be more like the United States, for better or
I mean,
worse.
I'm sure there's academic benefits. I'm sure that there's studies, and I don't even like using "I'm sure" now that I said that. I hear it come out of my mouth like that. I don't even like that saying "I'm sure" because I'm not sure. I imagine, I imagine because I don't know. I imagine that there's some studies that talk about how long a kid should be in school and how much they learn. Because I remember hearing about that kids do better in the morning, and that's why they would shift the schedules because morning time the brain is more receptive to information or whatever versus in the evening.
And 8 hours
Um,
of learning, honestly, it's inhuman. It's inhuman, unreal, unrealistic. It doesn't work flat out. I'm gonna go ahead and say that without looking at studies, based on just me going to work every day, and as a programmer, learning is still every day something I got to do. And there's no way that my brain can learn for that long. I can't even work for that long, much less learn. Oh, there's no, you know what I'm talking about when you're picking up a
Yeah.
program and you're trying to learn how to do the audio or whatever. There's a breaking point. We're like, yo, I gotta put this down for a few hours. You know,
You know what's funny? What you're saying reminds me of something. I was thinking about you today because, of course, we knew we were gonna do this, and I was thinking about creativity and how different people express that, and how different people have different levels of creativity. And I feel like in the creative field, yes, you hit roadblocks, and like, for example, if I'm working on a song, there's a time where mentally I could feel it. I'm forcing it. I've hit my breaking point, and anything I do beyond this point now is going to be mediocre, or it's not going to be up to par with what I want it to be. And in the workplace that happens too. And I was thinking about you because you're a creative dude, like whether you realize it or not. I think a lot of people think creativity and they go to music,
art.
art and stuff like that, like the arts. Like you're an actor, you're creative. You're a creative person in the problem solving. Like I see you get like real excited about how I'm gonna be a problem solver. How I hear you talking all the time. Like I'm not even. I vaguely know enough about coding because in college I started down the network security path. So some of
I
the
remember.
basics, some of the
I
101
remember.
with some HTML, yeah,
I
like
was
some.
actually mad happy that you were doing it. I remember. I was like, "Oh shoot, yo,
Yeah,
hold up."
I know the basics enough to get myself in trouble and do my own, like to set up some templates and get the stuff I need done for my creative stuff.
Yeah,
But you would always get crazy fired up about the stuff that would frustrate me because my passion is not web development. Like I'd hit a roadblock and you get excited about that. Like I'm gonna go into the code and figure out where this, why this page is broken, why this link isn't working, and I'm gonna solve that. And you get pumped up by like, yo, I solved that problem. Now that little link works the
yeah,
way it should.
yeah. It's something psychological wired in us. I don't know at what point it gets wired, but I think it has nothing to do with actual early exposure because I wasn't exposed to computers until later in life when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old when I
Now
came
you
to the
you
United
found you
States.
found satisfaction in solving problems.
Yeah, I think it's problem solving somehow. It starts to feel rewarding to some kids, at an age, and at that
Hmm.
point, a lot of careers that deal in problem solving become very attractive to this kid's brain, and
Right.
then that's what ended up happening with me. And yeah, I am. I used to think that yeah, I'm not a creative. I'm a coder. I'm not a creative because usually at companies they divide it differently. I'm not part of creative. I'm part of engineering.
Because
Um,
yeah, companies will define creative by the
yeah,
arts,
yeah, the arts. So like
hmm
anybody working on like audio
the
like
graphic design,
design,
photography.
that's
Yeah.
that's creative.
Hmm.
They'll even still to this day, they'll say we have a meeting with creative today
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
3 guys, be ready, have your questions. And it's true. They are, I would say, the essence or at a artistic level of creativity.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Artistically, it's like the real layman's, the vague. It's cliche to just say
okay,
the creative, to say the arts.
but
Um.
something I've learned is there is art in problem solving. You
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
really creative to be
Hmm.
good at problem solving because
Hmm.
if you're not, then you will not be able to solve problems every day like how I do. It's really my job to do that every day. Um
It took an incredibly. I'm impressed by such. There's so many things like to this day that you and I could kind of nerd out about in terms of web development that other people take for granted. It wasn't until I dove into like a little bit of the web development stuff in college and talking with you that I realized about just responsive web pages.
yeah,
Something
yeah.
so simple like that. Like that takes a creative person to understand that we're living in a world now where every screen is a different aspect ratio, and
Yep.
to understand how great would it be to where every single screen I look at, my website looks correct, where all the information is where I want it to be. Because remember back in the day, you would go to a website on a phone and you would like sliding your finger around to see the whole page. And there was a lot of information being lost if you
Yeah.
were on a smaller screen versus a bigger screen.
And
And then how effective is your website?
remember Apple introduced pinch to zoom. So before that, what did we do to zoom? I don't even remember. I think we double clicked. double click to zoom. You know,
There might have been a button like the magnifying glass or something. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't
I
know.
don't remember. I would have to get one of those old Windows. What was it called? Pocket
They,
Windows.
they
Windows.
had they had a whole bunch of Windows phone. The Q10 I think is one that sticks out to me. That I think
Yeah.
they had a phone like that. There was a lot of Windows based devices. BlackBerry had a lot of stuff like that.
BlackBerry was dope, but even what remember what they used to do was create mobile versions of websites, which
Right.
were different websites with
Right.
just links, and
Hmm. Hmm.
that you could click with your finger and not have to fat finger. That's what it's called. The buttons, like fat fingering a button, would be like I'm trying to press this button and I'm clicking three other buttons at the same time because like this website wasn't built responsibly.
Right.
But yeah, I think with to your point about the level of detail is once you come into the industry and you get presented with this problem, like you don't know what this person's going to come to this website in or use this app. So don't assume they're coming in a computer. Once you are presented with that problem, then you have to find ways to like, okay, let's not assume he's on a computer. Let's make buttons this big because the human finger by on average is this big and whatnot. So let's make sure buttons are this tall, this fat. Let's make sure our text is also a certain size because we cannot assume he's on a big screen. We have to
Right.
assume he might be on a small screen. And once you start in that, the rabbit hole just keeps extending. You have to then assume, is he on a phone? What if he's on a screen reader? What if he's hard of hearing or hard of his vision has issues? What if
Right.
it's an elderly gentleman that can't even use glasses to improve his vision? So he's more than likely consuming your website through what they call a screen reader, which reads out the text of the website to them. And once you start reaching this level of depth and doing the homework on that, it makes you a way better programmer, and you'll land jobs just from talking about it because they'll know, oh my goodness, he's not just talking about what we want him to do. He's talking about things that we hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, addressing problems that you don't know you're
Yeah,
about to run into it. They're like that's a
law
great idea there, but did you consider these things?
lawsuits.
Mm.
People are lucky.
Because
People are
accessibility issues.
people are lucky that this stuff the government is behind on that. But there's tons of websites and tons of services that are used by people day to day that are liable, and they're lucky they don't get sued. It's like not having wheelchair accessible doors at a bank or something. Like
That's
I'm pretty
crazy.
sure they can hem you up. They just don't. But some of these websites, you tell me, are they as important as banks nowadays?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think some websites are as important as banks nowadays?
In
Some
terms
apps,
of what
in
I
terms of
think.
like human necessity, like human importance and things you
So
need to do.
I'll answer your question a little bit longer than I need to. I think the internet is at the point where it should just be treated as a utility the same way that water and light is treated. I think it's a basic utility. I think there shouldn't be places in the United States that don't have running water and electricity, and there shouldn't be places that don't have internet.
Bingo.
Um, as far as websites, I think I've made this point before to some contention with some of my friends, but I've made the point that if you don't exist online, then you don't exist in terms of business.
Yeah.
People deserve their privacy, and if you choose not to be involved, that's cool. But business wise, that's my stance on that. In my opinion, that's how important it is. If you don't exist online, you don't exist.
You really
How are
don't.
how are people finding you?
Who's gonna
How?
find you? I can't
Um,
Google your phone number to call you real quick to see if you have what I need.
I can't Google your phone number. I would guess based on no data at all, just my gut feeling on how I act as a consumer is if I need a videographer, I'm gonna go on Google first. I'm gonna look for videographers in my area. And then a close second is gonna be Facebook. I'm gonna go on Facebook and see who has pages, who in my area is doing this stuff. Instagram is
Right,
another
right.
one, but it might as well be Facebook at this point. But you're gonna go on social media and look for stuff, and you're gonna go on YouTube to look at people's portfolios as far as creative services go, which is huge. I was talking about it the other day with Jerome on the other episode. Now's the time where digital services, if you have a passion for that, this is your time right now. There's no excuse. If you want to launch a business, now's the time to do that. If you want to go get a new job,
Love it.
now's the time to do that, to go earn more, because there's so much stuff being delivered directly to consumer. There's so much stuff being delivered on a remote basis. What we're doing right now wasn't possible at the level of quality and ease that it
Yeah,
is today. It wasn't possible. I want to say even 5 years ago, it,
it
it, it,
wasn't.
it wasn't.
It wasn't this vital either. Consider the pandemic.
And
So
we know us as guys that are like into this tech stuff, we know this is long overdue. We should have been doing this right now. We should have been doing this 5, 10 years ago, especially so office jobs and stuff like that. Like I was having this conversation when I was working an office job like 7, close to 10 years ago, explaining to bosses, why are we coming in? Why are we clocking into a desk to do this job? Do you not understand that you can take a computer home and do this at home? And I was trying to tell them from the angle of, how many accidents you minimize when people aren't coming into work.
yeah,
There's
part
nobody
of
getting hurt
oh,
on the job. Quality of life
quality of life,
improves.
man.
People are not calling out all the time. How many people call out because you know what? I just don't feel like getting up and going in.
Or they got to do something in the morning, and some jobs make it impossible. Where like if you need to do something in the morning, then call out. Like, oh my goodness, you just lost half the day of productivity because this man couldn't take his morning to do something.
Yeah, I needed to bounce for an hour or two and get right back to it. There's so much stuff that we learned that contrary to the previous generation's way of thinking, that can be task based. It's not,
Yeah,
it depends what field you're in, right? Because the marketplace and the job place is very broad. But for guys like us, it could be task based. It doesn't have to be done at 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning. It could be done at 2 in the morning. It could be done at 7 o'clock at night. Um,
sometimes I stay up at night, and it's nobody's paying me to work at that time. Like they
well,
know
and
I'm
the
not
thing is,
clocking in, but
what
I
you're getting
work at
paid
that time
for.
sometimes.
Right. And what a good employer these days that recognize the way the modern world is working and should work is you give deadlines and you just hold people accountable to those deadlines. That's all you do.
Bingo.
The need to poke your head in and make sure you're doing your job and what are you doing and are you on your phone? Are you having a private conversation? Are you on a website that you shouldn't be on? That's silly. It's that passive aggressive way of management that we've seen has no place in the modern world. There's no need for it. They've crushed morale, and I think that's why they're having a hard time getting people back into the offices, and people are struggling to find employees because people have gotten a taste of what it should be like, and now to pull them back into that old school mentality of now you're here 9 to 5, and I'm gonna be watching the clock, and if you show up at 9:01, I'm writing you up. Like
The
people are not
pay.
willing to go back to that.
And yeah, and if they felt for some time that pay was always inadequate, and now on top of that, you open their eyes to those realities you just mentioned.
Hmm.
Of course, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Wait, maybe I don't need this job. Maybe I can just risk it and find another job." I just did.
Find another job or work for yourself.
I just did it. I just did it because the pandemic closed my company down. My company shut down. They laid me off. Okay, I just went through that. I got a job. Now this job's they're being lame. What do you, they already experienced it, so they know it's not the end all be all.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's creativity. Um,
Yeah, it's
creativity
it's
is
unrealistic to take a person with a creative mindset and tell them to just be pigeonholed back into the old way of things. One thing that comes to mind right now is I think this is what we're seeing now for the first time. Pretty much, job sites locally have to compete with the whole nation.
yeah.
Um,
It's
you
been
you can't
happening. It's
you
been
can't
happening.
just go by, oh well, the going rate here in Virginia Beach
Yeah,
is $17 an hour. It's like, well, I could work technically. My boss could be in New York City,
that
and I
needed
could
to
be getting
happen
paid a
some
New
time
York
ago.
City rate.
I kind of get it. Where like yeah, like you should pay a little bit more if you expect somebody to be living in New York City, because of the cost of living. Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of synthetic, fake. I don't know what the word is, but limitations that people are adding to professions just because of where it's at. Like, oh, I want to offer you less because, oh, you work out of this place. People don't make that much here. Who cares? I live in New Jersey. You're hiring me all the way over there, but I live in New Jersey, so pay me what I'm worth, or
I
or,
guess
or lose me.
it could be complicated. It could be complicated because I see why that's important to do that, but at the same time, that can create resentment between employees when they know Ori in New York gets paid 30 an hour, but since I live in Virginia Beach, I get paid 15 for doing the same exact job because of the cost of living. You
Yeah,
know what I
no,
mean? Like stuff like that could happen, and it's like it's hard to justify that. And yeah, sure, you could go that into the economics and the facts about what the cost of living is. This it still doesn't hurt the fact that I know this guy gets paid significantly more than me to do the same exact job. And we're talking about virtual positions. That's what we're talking
mhm,
about specifically.
yeah,
When you're
yeah.
doing virtual positions, if you're
Those are
coding
the
a website and you live in New York, you would think that it'd be fair to pay me the same thing to do the exact same job wherever I am if it's a remote position. So I guess that's
Yeah.
something that'll have to be figured out kind of and ironed out in the world we're living in now.
What you're touching on is the complications that have arisen since because of this current job situation. You're touching
Hmm.
on that. It's not all peaches. It's great
Right.
to work remote, but it comes with some issues, and that's one
Hmm.
of the issues. When I got my job, it was pre-pandemic. I got my job in 2018, working remote. Um, and we didn't even mention this. We didn't even really introduce my professional capabilities or whatnot, but hopefully people have picked up that I'm a programmer.
Hmm.
Um, and with some about a decade of experience professionally, but maybe like about 20 years of experience overall.
You're a
Um,
programmer, but break that because you know what's funny. I don't fully know exactly what you do over there. I got like I said, I got a basic understanding because of my basic exposure to coding,
yeah,
websites and stuff. But there's a difference between front end, which would be the stuff you see on the website. What most people understand to be the website would
the
be the
website.
front end
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And then there's the back end developer. That's the guy making the website. Like that's for real the guts and the how it works aside of the website versus
yeah,
front
yeah,
end development where it's just the way it looks. You know, I took what somebody else built and now I'm adjusting the way it's going to display to everybody else. So what is it you're doing specifically? And you don't be bragging and stuff like that, so I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. But who's some of the stuff like who's some of the cool people you work with? Because you work with some cool like you've done stuff that ended up on some big companies' websites.
yeah. No, I right now, if you go to Exxon.com, and that website was created by little old me.
Hmm.
That's the only really real website I can brag about because all the other projects are private. Like they're not hosted anywhere for public consumption.
Hmm.
They're like internal tools for clients.
So
Um,
you right now that site the way it looks right now is you, or did it change since then?
no, I made it in 2014. I obviously was not as good as I am now, but even back then I was pretty good. And to this day, it's still there. You go to Exxon.com or Esso.com, which is their worldwide name.
Right.
Exxon is known as Esso, ESSO. And that UI, specifically the user interface, the
Hmm.
buttons, images, and text, the way it looks on phones and the way it looks on tablets and computers,
You want me
it's
to show it? You
created
mind
by.
if I show it?
You can go right ahead. It's a pretty simple website. It's simple,
So you
and
did. So
that's
you're
what.
so you're the guy that made when I put my mouse over this, that gets that shade and the blue line comes up and
Yep, that
all those
behavior.
things that this stuff to me is I can't stress enough how taken for granted this stuff is. It seems so simple.
Yeah,
And especially in the world of so I look at this and this kind of leads me to the next question. And this is super clean. This
it's so
website.
clean, right? That's
It's
why it's
clean.
still there because it's.
It loads
Why do they need
instantly.
to? Why do they need to redo it? It does everything they wanted to do. They're not going to redo it for what, you know?
This is a big portfolio client, man. This is something that you could be bragging about.
I go through. I struggle with that at work sometimes when it's time to interview. I don't like bragging about myself. I'm super. It's not that I'm shy. It's not that I don't think I'm good or have done incredible stuff, but I have a hard time with that. Like I just something I don't know. I just don't like bragging, even though when we have arguments with friends and stuff like that, I
Oh,
come
this
off.
is we
I come
joking.
off like you know how I
Yeah,
come
yeah,
off,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
with strangers. I don't do that. Like
Yeah,
I,
yeah. That's the trick. You have to know a person. You got to know a person to understand. Because I'm the same exact way.
I can come off
I
like this snob. This guy thinks he's smarter than me.
oh yeah,
This
no,
guy thinks he's
I'll tell
better
you to
than
your
me.
face on yeah, I'll tell you I'm way better than you. I'll
Yeah.
crush you in
Oh
this, and
yeah.
I will wrap circles around you, and I will draw better than you, and you ain't nothing.
That's me,
Um,
that comes out of me with the anger, but
and the
not
video
with
games is wild.
strangers. Not with strangers.
Yeah, no, with strangers, I don't. And if it ever does come out, I'll let them know I'm joking. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's jokes for real. Because to be honest, at the core, and I think you're kind of the same way. I'm in my core, I'm super shy, man. I'm not an outgoing person. You're actually better at it. You're one of my friends that can go into a room and be outspoken and kind of introduce yourself and kind of you shift the energy a little bit without being too you said clown, but I don't agree with that. You're just a personable dude, and you know how to make people laugh and smile and make them feel good. Um, Me, I walk into a room and I'll be super quiet, and they're like, "This dude's angry." I'm like, "Nah, I'm shy, man. You got to take a minute to break me out of my shell, and you get me
Right.
going, and we'll have some fun." But I'm not the guy, and I've
Yeah.
accepted that. I'm cool with that. I don't need to be.
You've been this way your whole
Mhm,
life. Like, let me tell you, that's why your brother was the first person to have an impression of. I didn't know he was your brother at the time, but then when I
mm,
put two and two together, oh, these guys are brothers. Oh,
right.
okay. But
Yeah.
he stood out first before I met you. Before I remember you, I remember your brother. Used to sit next to him. Me and him, we we're kind of kindred spirits when it comes to like nature and like history and like technology and science and things like that. We often shared a lot of stuff about that.
Hmm.
And but I think it's also because of your nature. You're a little bit more reserved um before coming out of your shell.
You know what happens that way, and I've learned this too. Just a lot of reflection and thinking back to stuff because I live in my head. I'd say too much, but it is what it is. But I realized that comes from being hurt at an early age. And stuff that's minor, right? But it piles up, and people process hurt and trauma differently. And I say
Yeah,
trauma not to exaggerate and stuff like that, but it is trauma. It's like you deal with betrayal, you deal with heartbreak. Um, and I think at a real early age, I was dealing with stuff with different relationships to where I learned like, you know what, I'm gonna just shut down, put a serious face, and keep distance. I kept distance. Um,
yeah,
and I
no,
think the people that I allow into my life because I'm selective like that. Um, I try to be as loyal as possible. I try to be the person that could be counted on as much as possible. I hope that that's what I end up being. Because I just I don't let a lot of people in my life, at least not close to me. And I don't have open conversations with everyone either. Like there's very few people that I will tell about um any marital problems, any family
yeah,
problems. There's very few. I don't go spouting out my business to everybody.
yeah,
Um,
no, I get that. And
but
I'm similar in a lot of ways,
yeah. And it's
but I don't
funny
think
because
it's a bad thing.
that's shown a lot in business too. Um, that's why me and Matt and myself, we make a good combination in terms of that because in business, I could be there's a place for being serious and kind of have some distance, but you do need an outgoing person. You need an outgoing personality, especially when you're meeting somebody for the first time. You got to kind of break out of your shell and force that. And I've been working on that. I've been way better at that these days. But there was a time where that I definitely need somebody next to me that's gonna kind of like shoulder that side of the load and help be that smiley face in the introduction and stuff like that because it takes a lot of work to get that out of me. When I do get in that mode, it's a lot of energy and being conscious of the way I'm speaking and the way I'm looking to kind of set the right tone the way I want to when I'm meeting somebody in business. But we got sidetracked a little bit. I think it's important to go into the coding and the stuff you're doing because
Yeah.
I got a question. You said a few things that I
You
wanted to
wanted me to
like
like talk about the web, like a little bit about the history
because you
and
said
what
you
it
you
is to
said
be.
something important. We were talking about how sites get developed, right? And you got to
Yeah,
be conscious of accessibility issues and stuff like that. So
yeah,
when
yeah,
you make a website, because I start thinking about the parallels between video production. When you
yeah.
make a website, are you making it to address all those issues, or do you identify who the core user is going to be, and then you make it for that person?
It's both. It's both.
Okay.
You can't just pick one. Um,
Mm.
you got to go and see which. Like currently, my current employer, we make a product that is for computers only. Very little goes into uh like production for cell phones or for smaller screens.
Why
So
why is it only? I mean, you don't got to give away what you're doing, but why is it for computers only? Like, why is it doesn't belong? Like, you don't even consider
yeah,
cell phones. And
it's
what you mean is the website you build
the app.
is
Yeah, they
only
call it a
is
web app now. Because it's literally no difference between like an app or
right.
a website. What is the difference?
So you guys are working on websites that are only for the intended to be on a desktop or a
Right.
laptop, right? Like it's on a larger screen. You're not
Ours
making considerations for iPhones and Android and stuff
They're
like that.
not. These are tools that are used by enterprises, and they don't want to spend any money at all on
Mm,
like what if somebody's viewing it on a small screen? Think for example, the people that make the interface when you're buying food and you're buying it at a kiosk, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Whoever makes that little app, they could use web technologies or they could use like native technologies to write that code. Uh, they would more than likely not really pay any attention to what if somebody views this on a on like a cell phone screen or a watch. It's
Right. I
not
get it.
made
I
for
get
that.
it.
It's being made for something. It's very specific, and and that's it. And if you spend any more time on that, you might be wasting your time. Unfortunately,
Right.
I love to cross out all types of scenarios, but sometimes, yeah, it's costly to go in there and say, let me knock out this feature and make it so that when somebody views the site on the phone, that could add like half of the time into production. um because then you have to create like solutions for what happens to this image when it shrinks. Does it still display the same message we want to convey, right?
Mm,
Because
mm,
images aren't there for pretty pictures. Those images on that Exxon website, they're there to convey a type of message.
right.
Um, and if you shrink the screen and the image don't shrink right, you've lost the image might be off center. The subject, you do photography, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. The
Hmm.
subject might not be in the center or might not be in focus. Now what? The image is useless. So you got to spend time to do that. And if you're spending half of the time on production for uh for a screen that literally like nobody's gonna be able to use to view the tool, then yeah, that is deemed a waste of time by like my employer, for example.
Right. So why? So to people that don't know, because I think this is a general perception. And I don't want to talk you out of a job
Yeah,
or
no,
make it feel like you're
it's
a dinosaur,
it's
right?
all open. It's
So
all
here,
everything's open.
so here's
Fair
the
game.
thing. Why do I need an Orielsy when I
Yeah.
can go to Wix or Squarespace or the why
Well,
what are you bringing? What's the skill set you're bringing, and what's the need for somebody like you in a
okay.
world of templates and
Uh,
UIs that do it without coding?
Yeah, no, in a world, not everybody needs me. People that used to need in this world today, people that used to need me back in the day don't need me no more. Um, because these tools have come out that have empowered a lot of users. All you've got to do is be able to read and follow instructions, and you can get like some basic stuff going and do probably like 90% of what everybody needs a website for can be
And,
done by a normal user, normal computer user. Just or you know how to use Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, you can probably make a little site for that little business you have. You
and
don't need Orielsy.
to be clear though, but behind the
Yeah.
scenes, the code that you would create as a programmer is being created when you do
Right.
Wix. Like
Yeah.
when you go to Wix and you move this box around, there's still on the back end a code being generated on your your CSS that's
Of
telling you, this block is
course.
here at this many pixels at this this grid on the screen. That exists still. The program is just these guys have taken the initiative and they're geniuses. This is creativity at work for real.
Yeah.
When you have the foresight to understand we can actually make an interface to where people can do a lot of great work on their own without having to get us involved. And they take the
Yes.
time and effort to make, I'm going to make a program to where you just drag stuff around and the
Mhm.
program is smart enough to know it's just going to be writing code and you don't even see it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is genius, right? It's genius stuff, to be honest with you.
But you get involved with what now? So obviously there's
So
going to be
who
some
needs me,
people
right?
that Wix and templates is not going to be enough. I need
Who needs
something
me?
very specific.
Right, who needs me is, well, if you want a custom made project with custom features that are not available to you at Wix, complexity that just goes beyond what you can do on any of these website template builders, then you're gonna need a guy like myself. If you want some consultancy and you want to inform yourself and you want to like just, you know, who do you reach out to? Well, you can
Right.
reach out to a guy like me. I don't charge for consultancy. Everybody that has ever reached out to me for advice has been like a friend or an acquaintance. And I'm not going
Hmm.
to charge a guy for talking to him for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even though I could make a business out of that. Um, but obviously, I'm very informed on trends and standards and best practices and things like that when it comes to the industry and what you can and should do, what tools are available to you. You know how many times I could have stepped in and done something for you, but because I knew, he needs something that he can modify himself.
Hmm.
I do
Hmm.
something for him, it's gonna be so complex. It's gonna be impractical. I'm
Hmm.
gonna be shafting him. He'll probably offer to like give me $100 or whatever, give me something for my time. But at the end of the day, I might be shafting him because I'm making something that is not going to be as useful to him if he just went with the simplest solution that he can tweak himself and go with that. And again, I'm not talking myself out of a job. I'm trying to say that people don't need me. I'm just saying the general uses of a website nowadays are just to get people get an online presence, get a phone number, get some contact information, and some maybe some images and some videos to
Hmm.
display what you do. Now, once you start talking about features where I want somebody to shop on my website, even that is becoming a bit more trivialized. But
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
get complicated, and if it starts to get complicated, then you need a guy like myself. Or if you want to add features like I want to be able to like use somebody's location to create this sort of like an experience that's like unique and unique to that person based on their location and some of this detail that we have of them, then of course, yeah, you need myself, right? You need something that um, that goes beyond what you're able to build. Like anybody stepping into animations or stepping into like programming features that require manipulation of data,
Hmm.
it starts to go outside the realm of like what's possible on these little website builders and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Where
but
do
do
where do you see the focus going though? Like so.
it's going in that direction. Literally, I in my day job. That's why I was laughing earlier when you were describing these tools. My day job is I work on a tool that allows you to click and drag functions that are the user doesn't know that they're clicking and dragging boxes. They're actually coding Python. So I'm
Mm.
literally taking Python developers out of a job. No, no, not really, not really. You can't really do that. You
Right.
and that's what I'm alluding to earlier. What I was saying, I guess I didn't really say it, but you cannot take me out of a job. Even with these little tools, these tools are empowering basic users to to do something, empower them to make
Hmm.
websites and do little make little things for themselves. But they're not taking me out of a job because that's not my job. It hasn't been my job since I was in high school. Once I
It
came
sounds
out of
like
high
what
school,
you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying. No matter what, you'll have a job because
yeah,
the job is not going away. It's just shifting, right? Like maybe
yeah,
your end client is changing now. Where
yeah,
back in the day it might have been directly to the business. Like Tony has a videography business. I don't know squat about websites. I just know enough to know I need a website, and then I would have to go to you. Versus now, your end client might be an organization making interfaces, making programs to where now I'm maintaining that program because, and that's what I want people to understand. When you go to Wix, when you go to Squarespace, you're not circumventing the fact that everything is running on the backbone of HTML, Python, and all the all the coding languages.
yeah.
It's still running on that backbone, and that code is still being created no matter what.
By
You
someone
just
like
don't see
myself.
it. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So you might lose the client of the direct to consumer business, but you're still gonna always have a job because these companies making this is always gonna be maintenance, things break. Um, there's always gonna be improvements and user
new web
feedback where like,
standards. New web
mhm,
standards are coming out with new features. So somebody has to code that into that website.
right.
Somebody, an engineer like myself, has to go add this feature. Oh, we want to be able to add a function that allows people to control the website using voice control. We want Wix
Mm.
wants to enable that. Okay, let me create a component that the users can click and drag into the page, and it enables voice control.
What are you guys doing in the VR space?
My company is doing nothing, unfortunately, in
But
that
when I
space.
say when I say you guys, like what? So what do you see
Oh,
like web developers doing in the VR
yeah.
space?
VR space is growing very slowly, much slower than I thought it would be growing. There was a
Mm.
boom earlier when PlayStation and MySpace
Oculus.
made their move. I thought it was gonna skyrocket. There are some limitations with that I seem to be preventing, probably cost. Um, but it's so dope. I cannot wait, honestly, to get rid of my screens. I use so many screens. I use 3 screens, and sometimes I feel like I need 4.
Mm.
Um, and once we get competent, uh, augmented reality, which in my is my favorite version of this whole VR thing, um, I'll get rid of almost
Glasses, and then you see screens
right.
in your actual living
Yes.
room and stuff like that.
And you know how much more elegant the home would be if screens that like productivity screens are gone and all you have is just entertainment screens. Your productivity screens are replaced by glasses you can put on and just be productive and not really introduce these jarring objects into your like
Space wise, it would be incredible. You'd have the screen the size you want it. I mean, VR is the same way. It's just VR is a little more not obtrusive. It's more involved in that you're disconnected
you're
from the
disconnected.
world.
Yeah,
There's
you're
a
just
complete disconnect, which is cool. It's cool on an entertainment level.
yeah,
You could
yeah.
disconnect from the world and plug into the matrix at will, however you want.
Yep.
When they're doing stuff like metaverse and you see all the VR stuff, is that a are those game developers or those web developers, or is that a combination?
Combination.
Mm,
Those technologies are still being standardized. Like standards are being created for like how should we program this? First they make standards, and then it becomes like more used used by a lot more teams. Until they make standards, everybody's like cowboying it. Like shooting from the hip. Once they
mm-hmm.
make standards, like the standards bodies that control the web technologies, there are some standards bodies that dictate how things should operate, and the companies like Microsoft and Apple can chip in and say, no, we want it to work this way, or we want it to work that way.
Right.
And then the standards body can say, you know what, you're right, that does make sense, and they'll add it to the standard, and then it becomes best practice for us to use that method. Once that happens with like VR stuff, it'll reach maturity to the point where more and more projects will use that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But until consumers can get their hands on these projects, it'll be niche. I was looking forward to buying some VR headsets that they have for developers that are very cheap to just start coding on them. I even did some like work on like basically keeping myself up to date, but it's been like 3 4 years. It hasn't materialized into like something that I see even in the next 2 3 years becoming like big, right? Big to
I
the
get.
point
I
like how
guess.
watches became big, right? How fast watches out of nowhere came, and that suddenly you have to, if you're working on a website, you got to start considering watches.
For yeah, for coding and
Yeah,
stuff like that. The format.
that was
Yeah.
quick. It was instant. Watches came into the field. Suddenly, is your website iOS? I forget what they call it. iWatch? I forget.
It might be Watch OS.
Watch OS. Is it Watch OS ready? Is this Android?
That's wild.
Android Wear ready? Is it? Suddenly,
That's
Mac
crazy.
quick. There's a
Alexa
difference.
and HomeKit integration too, right? Like, is your website Alexa ready?
It
Can I say
happens quick
Alexa, take me to this site or
actually,
whatever?
when the product comes out and is very successful, it happens very quickly. Suddenly, everybody wants to make sure that you have accessibility when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nah, a
Yeah.
little. It's funny talking about the VR stuff. A little bit of tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that I've been kind of like having my eye on between the pandemic forcing everybody to stay home, right? Worldwide, but we could speak for just the United States. The pandemic forced everybody to stay home. I think it's interesting that companies go into, we're hearing about NFT and all the blockchain stuff, and that, in the layman terms, what I tell people, what you just need to understand is that digital assets are going to become just as valuable as physical assets, whether you agree with that or not, whether you accept it or not. There's digital assets will be of the same value, if not more, than physical assets. um for people that don't agree with that, then if you have kids, go ask them how much they care about their Fortnite skins,
Yeah.
and you start wondering how you could translate that over to adults, and not just skins for your metaverse character, but maybe you can own the first digital version of this piece of artwork, or the first song, or there's going to be limited quantity release songs that go with the NFT, that there's only 100 of these MP3s put out, and this is the original, and you have validation to say you have the original. I say all of that to say, compounded with the pandemic forcing everybody to stay in, the quick like rise of NFT artwork, and the NFT creative side of things. And then you're hearing about metaverse and VR. I start to wonder on a conspiracy level, it's like, how much interest do these companies have in pushing an agenda that keeps people inside when they're delivering a product that
How much?
lives inside your home?
I mean,
It's like the virtual reality, like Facebook pushing the whole, they changed their name to Meta, and it's not a coincidence when you talk about metaverse,
hmm
just to have dibs on that name, and to
yeah,
have this push of like, I now want to control your digital life, because
yeah.
companies have realized that we
They
as
want
consumers value our digital presence just as much as we care about our homes.
They
Like I
want your
want my
time.
home to look nice and I want my digital presence to look nice too. And if there's a way to monetize to where my little avatar or my Facebook page has a unique feature, has a unique feature
Yeah,
that maybe yours doesn't, because I gave Facebook $10. So my Facebook page has a black layout and maybe an MP3 music player up there, and you don't.
yeah,
The
yeah,
little things like that. And then you get into the metaverse. It's like, no, I want my avatar in that metaverse to have this type of clothes and stuff like that. Okay, give me a couple dollars. Um, it's just interesting on the world that we're living in, like how much. I don't want to be any kind of like a pandemic denier or COVID denier, stuff
yeah.
like that. But it's just it's something that I'm keeping my eye on. Like how long is this going to go on, and who's going to be the ones that are the most outspoken about it? Because who is this going to benefit from? Companies are going to find a way to benefit from this whole thing, and I think they are
Yeah,
already.
big time. I don't think you called yourself a conspiracy theorist. You're not a conspiracy theorist.
I think that yeah, because you agree with it. But I think on a high level, it's kind of like
No, it's obvious, especially once you like when you keep up to date with technology, like how I have to, how I have to.
Mhm. It benefits them for us to
Common
stay inside.
best practice. It's considered best practice. You have to. I've read books. I have books here. I'm looking at some books here on standards on how to keep people engaged.
Right.
It's a psychology
Right.
to that, and you have to pay attention to that. Even when I'm not trying to be sneaky or psychologically play games with people when I'm working on a user interface, but there are standards that they expect of me based on human psychology. I can't put a button somewhere on a page, say, click here for this, and then it does something else. So
Mm.
that's like a small example of the type of transaction going on between a programmer and a user. Like you have to follow best practices. You have to follow. There are studies on human psychology, how people interact with web pages. If a web page doesn't load quickly, what are the odds of them staying or navigating away or opening another app because something is taking too long?
Mhm.
So you have to follow these. That's why like Facebook will load up like gray little boxes when it's loading because you trick the user into thinking it's loading. It's not. It hasn't loaded anything. The app is just showing you dummy content so that you hang on. Psychologically, it feeds your brain's information that says, "Hold on just a bit longer. Something's coming." Um,
Mhm.
and in a lot of ways, this extends to like deeper. It extends to something that I don't like. I haven't always agreed with. And to touch on your what you mentioned, I don't like the trends and where they're going. They bother me. The digital living trends, but part of me accepts and understands it as inevitable. The moment that music went from being physical to being totally digital at this point, I guess it honestly when I think about it, it's shocking that it's taken this long for there to
Mhm.
be unique items, particularly when it comes to music. I mean, think back. I wasn't really I didn't have money back then, but I can only imagine how valuable it would have been to somebody in the 1980s to have something unique from Michael Jackson. I can
Mhm.
only imagine
Right.
because even now, like I would go bananas if I had something in here that was from that man, signed by him or whatever. Like, yo, nobody else in the world has this item.
And as
It's
far as
mine.
and the way I understand it, that's one of the biggest benefits of things
Yeah,
being NFT based. There's
right.
people that I got into a debate on with some online people that I talk with. Um, some people go into like the NFT is actually bad for the environment because the way they broke it down, like how much, for example, like crypto mining. You've heard how
Computing.
like the amount of energy it takes to
Mhm.
mine some Bitcoin and crypto is destroying the planet. So people were breaking down on me like, did you know that NFTs, what it takes to mint this stuff, and way more stuff than I understand it.
It's
Some people
beyond me.
say it's going to destroy the environment.
It's beyond me. A lot of those calculations are beyond me. Like I don't keep up,
It
but
is, but I say
But
that
I
the
understand.
positive is what you're talking about though,
Yeah,
because there was a gap, right? Like in the 80s and in the 90s and some of the 2000s, physical media had value. I'm sitting in a
right.
room. I did maybe one day I'll show it on
Yeah,
camera where I have a whole entire closet behind me full of video games, the actual discs and the cases and all that stuff and collectibles. there was a time where there's value in that, and that stuff still holds its value to this day to a certain extent, especially the collectors. But
Yeah.
then there was a time frame where everything went digital,
Mhm.
and there is no resale value.
Mm.
None of that just exists in any way. I can right click save, and everybody else has the exact right click saved file on their computer, on their smartphone, everything.
Let me put it to you
Um,
this way. I used to buy video games, and before I pop the video game in, I'm consuming the little data booklet. I'm looking at the data
music,
booklet.
music.
I'm
We
looking
used
at
to
the
read the.
art.
Remember, we read the credits. There'd be
Yeah.
lyrics in there. Um,
Every
all that.
album cover would have like pages in the back behind it, photographs of the artist and things like that.
Remember the blueprint that had the blueprint paper in the booklet.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. How could I forget? All that stuff is gone, and
Well,
it
it's
wasn't
gone.
replaced with something.
Well,
It
it's
was a
being replaced
period.
now, though. So there's
Yeah.
now a rebirth in that. Whether, and I think a lot of people are not going to understand it because they're going to be like, I could just right click and save that picture. Yeah, you can have it. That's not the original. And there's value in having the original. There's
Yeah.
value in having the limited run that these are validated, and it says this is of that limited run. You might have the copy and pasted MP3, but that's not the limited run that was put out, that from the originals, right? The other side of it as a creative that I see is that for the longest there was no participation on the creator side when something was resold. So
Mm.
I get a physical game. I go to Walmart and I buy my video game for 60 bucks, 70 now these days, right? But you buy the game for 60, 70 bucks. I go then sell that game to GameStop, or I sell it to Orielsy for 30 bucks. That
Yeah.
creative team does not see anything from that 30 bucks that I sold it to you for. And in the NFT world, you can create these contracts to where it's like no matter how many times that's sold, I get a percentage of that
Wow, I
because
didn't know that.
it's just traceable. You have
Wow.
this, and it's in an NFT contract to where okay, Tony bought it from me for 70 bucks. When Tony goes and sells it for 50, I get X percentage out of that. When Orielsy sells it, I get X percentage of that in perpetuity. And this
Wow.
is something I see that's good for the creatives.
Mhm.
If you're in the music, if you're in the digital arts and stuff like that, any kind of digital media, I think it's incredible. It's incredible. And people are using it now, these NFTs, to kind of lead you. The smart guys, they're
Mhm.
doing it to open up doors in real world. It's like, if you have this NFT, we're gonna let you come to this party or this club, or that you get access to this event if you own these
It
NFTs.
has real world.
It has real
It's
world
extending out
application.
real world
It's dual.
value.
Yeah,
Real
it's
world
dual
value.
application. It
Yeah, I get
is
that.
that's the way you do it.
That's
Um,
dope. There's so much of it is dope,
and I'm
but
not scared of it. I think a lot of people are scared of it.
I am.
If you
I
don't,
am to an extent.
what scares you about what, NFTs, blockchain, digital media, what?
No, just digital digital aspects of our digital life gaining more value is scary to me. And I'm not like what do you call it, like conservative to the point where like I don't like this stuff. I'm open to it, but and I see the
Mhm.
value in it. But it is scary to me because it's like we're traveling down this road. We're on a skateboard and we're not exactly in control of everything. We're traveling down the skateboard and gravity is handling a lot of it for us. We're just staying on.
Right.
And what's scary to me is, this circles back to an earlier point in the conversation when I mentioned something about my persona, about how I behave on like social media and sharing
Mhm.
happy moments and things like that. What's scary to me is and something you mentioned earlier, that you said that you were like a bit of a conspiracy theory, like how much of these companies like vying for our our attention and having us live our lives within these capsules they've created for us. You better believe
Do they fuel that fear to keep
you
us
better
home
believe
because
they're
they have a
doing
product
that.
that needs us to be home?
They're doing that. They want our time. They want our attention. I don't remember if it was Netflix or not, but somebody made like this meme where like Facebook was literally sitting there talking about like, oh, he's looking at a video of like t-shirts. Why don't you load up that ad you got for that company? Yeah. Put that in the feed. Put that in there next. Like it caricatured. It made like a caricature of like Facebook, but it's true. It's real, and it's coming to. It's gonna be even more valuable now. It's gonna be implemented inside of VR, and I don't. I definitely see people at one point feeling like their digital lives are way more valuable than their real lives,
Hmm.
and that's sad. It's happening already in a big part. I'm part of it. I'm on social media. I have a social media addiction. I won't deny that. Um, what do I mean by that? I mean, like, I get joy out of having someone reach out to me. My brain appreciates that. But it comes at a cost. My attention, my concentration, my ability to focus is hindered by that. So I
That's
have
why
to
I
take
took that's why I took
measures.
smartwatches off. I used to have an Apple
Yeah,
Watch, and I went back to just like a traditional watch.
yeah. I do
I
not recommend smartwatches. Nobody,
mhm,
and also I recommend taking steps against even your phone. Um, I'm like I've been progressing that throughout the years. Like, yo, this thing needs to get out of my face. I'm with my family. I'm at a restaurant. I'm leaving this in the car. You know, I'm not dealing with it, and it's
mhm,
because, like, a lot of these websites and services, Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, they're really good at tapping into what makes us happy. And it's cool. Like, it's cool to see what Tony's doing and have people react to some project I'm doing around the house, and people, my cousins, reaching out. I love being in touch with my cousins in the Dominican Republic. I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for WhatsApp. Um, but part of me is also hyper aware of my own faults as a human, and things like my brain can, like, fall into. And I'm afraid that as digital things become more valuable, digital worlds become more detailed, more like realistic, to the point where, like, I can put on this visor and I'm I'm in Halo. Oh my
mhm.
god. Can you imagine what my brain is going to feel? I already experienced this, by the way. It was mind blowing. I had my mind blown in Philadelphia with a VR Halo demo. I got to experience that. Only few people have been able to play because it's not a product. I got
Mhm.
to play Halo 3 inside of a VR environment. It was unreal. And I was like, oh my God, oh my goodness, like, I need this. And I've had a Halo addiction before, and, like, I got rid of that at one point. But it's scary. It's coming.
But it's
People
not
are
it's
gonna step out of the digital worlds to eat and dive back in.
yeah. Yeah. And I agree with everything you said. I will add, and not that you implied this, but I think that it's not necessarily all doom and gloom, because we've seen the benefit of, because of social media, because of video games. We talked about it all the time. It's like, yo, thank goodness that Call of Duty Warzone came out and it was free to play, because we
Yeah,
started talking to friends that we hadn't been talking to on a regular basis, and now we're talking.
yeah.
And I've learned to use video games specifically as a way to keep in touch with my friends, because it's like you said, it's like we're not always gonna call and have the one-on-one conversation about that. We're not wired that way. You and I are not.
We're grown
Um,
men, though, and that's
but
the thing. But I think, like, industries, that needs to be standardized, and I hope that somebody leads the way. Um, like, life is forcing me to manage my time, to be, um, to say, I can't game tonight.
oh
Unfortunately,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, I
But that's
gotta.
that's just how it is. That's part of growth. You're married. You have a daughter now. Um, and you've been doing good at that. You disconnect sometimes from the world, and put your head down, and deal with stuff. Um, how have you been pretty much managing that stuff? Because
It's
we're
been
talking about
hard.
growing.
It's so hard.
Because I so it's like a twofold question, and one's gonna be kind of the longer way around to get to a point. With the skill set you have, I would think that you would end up working for yourself. Not everybody wants to, because you
Mhm.
you got the quality of life that you want, and you're happy, and you're seeing growth and stuff like that, and you're meeting the goals you have. But do you ever think about seriously doing something on your own? Because I feel like, for example, the skill set I have and the skill set you have, I feel like companies need to capitalize on that more, because you tell me if I'm wrong. From a web development side, I feel like web developers are always hungry for content. It's like I could code everything, but where are the pictures? Where's the video? Where's the graphics? Where are the assets at? I feel like that would be a constant, like, pulling teeth. Like, yo, I need more pictures. This website's gonna be trash if I don't have the pictures. Those are problems that you can't necessarily solve unless you go in and get stock stuff. So I feel like
Yeah,
there
you gotta
should
go
have
get
been
stuck.
that there's I feel like it would be a powerhouse if you had a great coding guy like yourself, and then me, and it's like, okay, you're the coder, and then you just tell me straight up, yo, I need video of this, I need this picture, go get it, I'm coding this. And that's a crazy business to launch. Um,
Yeah,
have
it's
you have
very
you thought
common.
about seriously doing that? Are you doing any of that? Or are you kind of good where you are and you don't really give it thought?
I have at times, but part of my nature is to solve problems that are in my face and
Hmm.
not necessarily tackle ones that are like in the background. And because I've always been employed and making decent money, um, there's this legwork that needs to happen
Hmm.
for you
Hmm.
to dive into a business that I haven't taken on. And call me lazy, I don't know.
You're not.
Um,
It might
I
not be your
value
interest, but it doesn't
my
have to be.
I value my time off so much that
Hmm.
I will cut off certain things if if they are interfering with my time
Right.
off. Back in the day, a few years ago, something interfered with video gaming. It's not happening. It's going away because I don't have a lot of hobbies outside
Right.
of coding.
Right.
Um, I love music and listening to music, and I used to play music at one point, and unfortunately, in my teenage years, I grew away from that. Family situations forced things, responsibilities, and it just starts becoming a hobby. It stops becoming a hobby.
Hmm.
Um, so nowadays I don't socialize, but I do play video games, and I don't like to this day, and probably until I pass away from old age or whatever. Video gaming is going to be my primary way of entertaining myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
and to the point of like the how I would need to sacrifice that to start a business, and I haven't
Hmm.
done it. And I'm telling you something I've known forever. Like that's what I need to do to start a business. I need to spend time reaching out to clients and putting myself out there. Once I get one, two, three clients, I could probably quit my job with probably like three clients.
Yeah.
Quit my job and dedicate myself to that. It's a dream of mine. I'll probably get it done soon. I don't
It's a
know.
dream to have your own business.
Yeah, it is. To have like a team out in Dominican Republic that that services me or is my company that services clients out here in the United States that need people like myself. So I dream of having a team out there because it would allow me to help my family out there and my peoples that I have out there, and also it would be like a cool. I would still be working in something I love, right? Which is what I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
So like I dream about that. I love to be able to do that. Of
It's
course,
kind of
I
like what I say. It sounds like what you get excited about is the opportunity to create opportunities.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
hearing you say, "Oh, I dream about having a lot of money and going on vacation and stuff like that." Because some people do get in the business, and everybody with their own motivations and their priorities, right? I'm not, who the heck am I to judge? Some people get in the business because they want to see a certain amount of money. I see it as an opportunity, and I want to be a millionaire, whatever the heck. That's on you.
Mhm.
That's cool, right? I get excited about what you talk about. I get excited about having a business that makes enough to where I could tell somebody, "Hey, I love to work with you. Come work with me." I've been waiting for that opportunity with you personally. We touched on it throughout the
Yeah.
years. It hasn't overlapped, right? And maybe it'll happen in due time. I wish it would. It'd be an exciting moment the day that we tackled a particular project together, and it's like, all right, you're gonna do the web stuff, I'm gonna do the video, and let's work it out. And maybe that'll happen still. Who knows?
I think
Um,
so. The more you stay in that lane you're in, the more likelihood it's gonna happen because you're gonna find a need eventually, and they won't be able to solve it with like one of the tools that are available out. And they'll you have to be like, hey, I know a guy. Let me find out what his availability is,
you
and
know
then
what's funny? You know
you'll
what's
go from
funny
there.
though? Even and I don't know if this sounds cheap or wrong or whatever, but there's gonna be people that even want somebody like you, in which I think would be overkill, but they still would want it. They'd want somebody to set up their Wix page and their Squarespace because they don't even know enough to deal with that. There
Yeah,
might be, I
you're
think there's
right.
a lot of people that don't understand domain names. What that's about, buying a domain name, making it private if you choose to make it private. They don't understand SSL certificates and the costs that go into that. There's a lot of stuff people don't get with websites. That they're proficient enough to go do a Facebook and an Instagram page, but when it comes to how do
Yeah,
I get whatever.com, they don't know how to do that at all.
or they
And
don't have the time, Tony.
the
That's
time, the
another thing.
interest, yeah, that too,
Some
that
people,
too.
like a CEO, I could see like like for yourself. Let's not even
Mhm.
use a CEO. Your company, eventually becomes busy enough to the point where even working on a template that you can handle is something that
Hmm.
you're gonna have to maybe delegate to someone else. I'm not saying, oh, let me call Ori because he knows how to code, and I'm gonna delegate this to him. You might not need like someone with my like crazy experience, but if I am already working with you on another project or whatever, or constantly,
Hmm.
then potentially you could say, "Yo, Ori, update this and that on the whatever website real quick."
Is that
That could
something
be
you
something.
would? Is that? And I'm not saying beneath you in terms of pride, but is
Yeah.
that something you would be interested in doing? Or is that something you feel like it's kind of like bringing a nuclear missile to a knife fight?
No, I do that stuff almost every day. There's tons of stuff that's part of my job that are not using my hardcore skills. It's part of the job.
We should talk about that privately because
Yeah,
there's stuff that I think there's opportunities there for real to where people don't. Honestly, I think at the level of business I do with the people I work with, there's much more opportunity in template based services and just running the maintenance and doing the legwork than there is a budget or the need more than anything to have a
yeah,
customized website. There might be a lot of benefit in, hey, we could do your website and it could be a Squarespace based thing.
yeah.
And
No,
I imagine for you
I've taken
that'd be pretty
I got a
fast.
job before doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's jobs out there that are companies using Squarespace, but then they're hiring developers like myself because they're extending Squarespace. So
Right.
they're using Squarespace, but then you hiring a developer to take Squarespace and put it on steroids. So
Hmm.
that's common. I landed a job before I worked there for a week, and then I did battled out of there. It wasn't bad. It's just that unfortunately I got a better offer. I was getting offers. Not something I do. It's unethical. I don't accept offers and then turn around a week later and accept another one. But in this case, I had to make an exception because
Yeah.
of something I was going through, and I don't mind sharing it. I had a job. I was let go in an unfair way. Unfortunately, the company started downsizing. I accepted a job to a company here in New Jersey, and they turned around days before, or like the night before I was supposed to start. Uh, Somebody did something very unprofessional. They reached out and said, "Don't come in tomorrow. Our new VP is having second thoughts about the position."
Mm.
Mind you, I had already taken steps to move from New York City to New Jersey. Spent a large portion of my savings on that. I was starting work the next day, so of course, if Tony accepts a job uh, in Washington D.C. and the pay is big enough to move the family, of course, either Tony or the family itself is gonna be out in Washington D.C. either at a hotel or already at living quarters the day before you start work.
Right.
Um, so they waited till right before, and so they put me in a situation where I had to fight for my life pretty much and do what I consider to be unethical, which is accept a job and then a week later accept an even better job. Um,
I remember that.
I
Yeah.
I, I regret that. I don't like doing companies like that, but they will do you like that. So they'll do you worse,
We had the
as
we
I
had
have
that
explained.
conversation. Yeah, we had that conversation. I remember when it happened. The more you talk about it, the more I remember a
Yeah,
little more about the details. And that was kind of the consensus that we reached. Is like at the end of the day, when it's time, they don't give you no 2 weeks notice. They don't say, hey, you're gonna
yeah.
get fired and you're going in 3 weeks. They tell you pack your stuff, leave now.
You could pass
What
away. They'll put an ad out for your replacement tomorrow, and they have.
and they have to exactly that is maturity to understand that and to express that because that is the truth. The business
Goes on.
is it has to continue, man. If you were a business owner, you would do the same thing. I feel very bad that so and so passed away. I feel very
Matter of
bad that
fact,
so and so got sick, but
you should.
there's bills and things to pay. I have
It
to
would
move
be
on.
an embarrassment for you. You
For
should
one
be
person to
dead.
topple the company.
You should be dead and embarrassed in your grave if they don't have to replace you. Then you were useless. No,
That's funny.
but
That's
I'm
funny. If you
kidding.
don't need to be replaced, then you should be embarrassed.
You
No,
they
that's true.
you were useless. But yeah. So that happened, and it worked out for the better. I landed at this great company.
Mhm.
Still there, and I don't know if I'm leaving.
Nah, ride it as long as if you're enjoying it, man, keep it going. Like I'm all for it. That's one thing I learned. The one thing I've been learning a lot the last year for sure is the whole mental health thing. There was a it became cliched and it kind of still is cliche to talk about mental health and stuff like that. But I'm understanding it more from my side and understanding my emotions and understanding where reactions come from. And I'm like, if you're doing something that makes you feel fulfilled and it's not
Yeah,
harming the family, it's not harming you, and you generally fulfilled doing something positive and productive, then keep rocking, keep doing it.
yeah, yeah,
Why stop it? And I don't stop anything for money. If
yeah.
I know this is going great here and this is going to be the path that's going to lead me to where I want the family to go, I'm gonna stay there, even if it means a little bit more money somewhere else. I don't move
Definitely.
because of money.
I
When I
learned
made
that
a
lesson
move,
the hard way.
yeah, no, when I recently made a move, I did moves career wise recently, and it was not based on money. Even though the money did increase, it
Hmm.
wasn't based on that at all. It was based on flexibility of scheduling. It was
Yeah,
based on I can take care of the family the way I need to. I can take care of my business goals and my passion and my hobbies the way I need to, and I don't have to play the 9 to 5 game. That's something I'm going to avoid that as much as I can. I take a pay cut. I take a significant pay cut if it meant keeping the flexibility I have now.
same here.
I'm not
Same
moved by
here.
money.
Before I got this, before the pandemic, I would tell people that call me. I get calls every day about other jobs and stuff like that. Placement like experts, people that like talent hunters.
Scouts
Um,
and stuff.
I always tell them if it's especially before the pandemic. Now it's more common, but before the pandemic, I'd be like, for me to budge for my job based on money, it's got to be almost like a third more of what I make, and because that's how much I value being able to be home. I took on some challenges here when I bought this property. I got other pursuits that I have to face, and if I lose that, I'm gonna have to hire somebody to do that.
That's
So
the part. That's the part where I think of Orielsy, and I say that you do have a business mindset, and I could see you owning a business because you have the courage, you have the tenacity to go out and make investments because you did something. I talked about you the other day privately with my wife.
yeah,
Um, because I said that there's people that handle their money differently. There's people that save their money and then they go drop, a couple grand on a vacation, and that's important. That's good that they do that.
I've done that,
Um, that's
and
important. Yeah, I've done that. I've done
and
that, and
and
there's
it's
people that
and
do
pay
that.
the price too for doing it at the wrong moment, but at that time
That's
it was necessary.
no, it's important. I'm not
Yeah.
discounting that at all. It's very important to take. I just finished talking about mental health. It's very important to go drop what's necessary to take the family out to go have a special moment.
Yep.
But I brought you up because I said, and then there's other people that will sometimes forego that and risk all the money they have because they see an opportunity now to make an investment like what Ori did with the house. I was like, there's a
Yeah.
difference. There's people that go into debt to go stunt pretty much, right? Like I'm gonna go into debt, I'm gonna go into credit card debt, I'm gonna go get a loan or whatever because I want to go to Italy, I want to go over here, I want to go do exotic things, I want to have every sneaker, have the biggest TV, whatever, right? They're in debt, they're paying off that debt nonstop for stuff that has no value.
Hmm.
It doesn't, it's not a real investment. And you did something that I feel like that's a business owner mindset, that's an investment
Right.
mindset to say, you know what? We're gonna grit through this. This is gonna be tough, and I bet
Oh,
you it
yeah.
was tougher than you thought it was gonna be tough, and it ended up being even tougher than that.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought it was gonna be like going up a tough hill, and it became Mount Kilimanjaro. But
yeah,
hey,
and you've been doing it as graceful as you could. And the thing is, you know what? And the thing is, you should be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you in that you did this at probably the most inadvisable time to do it. You did it when you were recently married.
lesson
You
learned.
you
You
got
go for
married, and you
yes.
immediately. And the thing is, knowing a little bit what I know now, and I think you would agree to anybody getting married now, like the younger than us that starting to get married,
Yeah.
it's like try to get your finances in order as much as you can
Don't
because
do that.
that first couple years,
Yeah.
you're going to have a lot of tension in the house. I would assume, based on my experience, what my parents tell me, what you've experienced. It's not the answer to everybody, right? I'm sure that maybe there's some marriages out there that they go perfectly fine. I don't know. In my experience, those first couple years, there's a
Yeah.
ton of tension getting to know each other, right? And if you add financial hardship to that
Mm,
equation, It is terrible.
It's
It's terrible.
constant,
When you're
nonstop.
already getting to know each other, don't don't you need to wash this dish. You need to get your stuff over here. Don't talk to me this way. I need my space at this type of the hour. I play video games. You need to learn how to move around me.
Right.
Getting to know each other and dealing with that
That's
is
rough,
already
man.
incredibly tough. And then you took on the responsibility of, okay, I'm going to financially ruin us for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to put
I
us in
mean,
a situation
no,
that's going to be incredibly difficult. We're
to
going to be
fill
getting
in.
to know each other. And on top of that, I'm going to need to dedicate a massive amount of time to getting this place right. So we're not going to have the money. We're going to get to know each other the hardest way possible. And you're not even going to see, we're not going to be able to spend the quality time that we would probably want to
Yeah.
because of this immense burden that we've taken on.
I
But
definitely regret some portions of that, man.
nah, but you shouldn't. Don't even say that because you learn
Yeah,
from that and you
no,
get
no,
better.
no.
No,
You
because
have to. That's what makes you better. You have
you
to
don't
learn
have the
from wisdom.
knowledge. If you, to regret it would be, I wouldn't want that to happen. But then you wouldn't be the person you are right now, and you wouldn't have the knowledge you have to deal with the next bigger thing because you're gonna deal with bigger things in your life. And especially if you end up opening a business, you are going to be mentally prepared now to deal with the stresses of having a business because you are dealing with a high level of stress and managing the relationship with your wife and managing the relationship with the baby and managing your friendships. A lot of that is prepares you for business ownership. And I don't know everything about business ownership, but I know about stress and I know about trying to keep a cool head.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about that lately a whole lot. I've been talking about it with Joyce, that there's a perception, especially in minorities, especially in Hispanics, to where the man has to be in control. Not in control of being you will do what I say and you shut up. I'm talking about in control of himself. There's a certain
Yeah.
demeanor and a certain calmness and intention that's expected of us at all times. Um, and I've been talking lately about, I need acknowledgement of what's going on in here and what's going on in my heart. I need just some consideration. Because it's very hard to have the expectation of having that brave face 24/7. Like when is he allowed to be hurt? When is a man allowed to be scared? Um, Sometimes it feels like you can't, and that creates a huge weight in the mental stress.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why I say I'm proud of you in that you've been doing it. I did. We don't need to get into details because we have real private conversations, but
I don't mind. I mean,
you've
some of
been
the.
doing it. You've been dealing with stuff that most
Yeah.
married men know about. Anything you
Yeah.
can imagine, the fights and disputes with the wife, and raising a kid, and what that's like, and having a home, being a homeowner.
I think the
It's
big
tough.
thing you touched on it, you glazed over it. I'm calling it glazed over, even though you went into it, was this purchase and the timing of purchasing this home and the details and what it meant. And I think that it's important to dive into it in case anyone's watching that is going to find themselves in a similar situation. You know, me personally, like I said, like Tony said, I shouldn't regret it. But certain things about it, I don't regret because I'm the oldest in my out of my brothers. You heard me mention that I'm a son of immigrants, so obviously I don't have older siblings and people that are like walking the path before me. I'm walking the path and making and finding dead ends or finding dead ends and having to like plow through that dead end because I don't
Hmm.
got another option. I can't turn back around. That's
Hmm.
pretty much what happened. You know, when I purchased this home, I opened up a black. I kind of exposed myself to a black hole that I didn't really know about much.
And to be clear, you didn't. And the reason I'm proud of the decision you made,
Yeah.
though, is because you didn't go into debt to have a home. You got an investment
It's an
property
investment
because
property.
your home
Yeah.
is two homes. You have a
It's two
multifamily
homes.
home
It could
with
be
the
three
idea,
too if I make the right
the
move.
basement and stuff, right? Yeah. But the idea was we're gonna get this massive loan that's gonna
Yeah.
take a massive chunk of our monthly income because if we do this right, this
It
house will eventually pay itself, and we won't
it's
even have to
fine.
worry about that.
You've got to pay rent anyway.
Hmm.
What are you gonna do? Live with your parents your whole life? You can't. You have to go on your own path and become and unburden them with whatever responsibilities they are burdened with by having you there in their home.
Hmm.
Um, I would say do use your parents as much as you can, and use them as a trampoline and be responsible. Don't just use people. Be a benefit to them. You know, do things
Hmm.
around the house and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, but when you do move out, my advice to young couples and young men and young women, even if you're not married, uh, look for an investment property. Don't just dive. into whatever first comes first. Try to get an investment property. Try to do something. This is just my how I walk my path. The way I see properties, they have to make money for me. That's the way I view them. It's not that I'm like I. It's not that I think money is everything.
Hmm.
But like somebody at work was giving me the same props you're giving me. He was like, "Man, I really love how you think, man. Wow, so your home. This is his words. Your home is a an asset. It's not a liability. Like
Hmm.
my house is a liability to me."
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think he's being a little harsh on himself because honestly, at the end of the day, you gotta pay rent anyway. So
You need a place to live,
you need
and
a
you're gonna
place
have
to
to pay
live.
for that regardless.
One way or another, your home is actually an asset. And
Hmm.
another thing I would say quickly to glaze over it, do not view. It's a very American thing that I've noticed. Do not view homes or homes and property like this thing that you have, and the moment it becomes sort of like a challenge, you can either sell it, get rid of it, or whatever. Like the way I view homes and property, I already don't even refer to this house as my house. It's already something I'm doing. This is
Mm.
my daughter's house.
Mm.
It's not my house. It's my kid's house. Why do I do that? I'm trying to pass on wealth. I'm not trying to make money. So then during my golden years, go somewhere and enjoy being sick and old. That's not how I'm moving through life. I don't know.
That's exactly
Hopefully,
what Jerome was talking about too, and that's a feeling of we're getting old. This is just the truth.
yeah,
We're starting to think about that, and we've seen um people in the previous generation to where they broke their backs. And the way Jerome put it is, I don't want to work until I'm old enough to then go get a part time at Walmart.
yeah, no,
Like
you got to do
that's not the
something.
goal, man. The goal is you work so hard your life, you suffered, you went through all this pain and stuff like that, and now you physically can't move the way you moved, and you might not be as sharp. It's time
Yeah,
for you got some rest to do, man. You like
yeah.
rest. You're not gonna live forever. I don't. It's unfortunate to me that life is kind of set up the way it is. Like it's like you enjoy the first like 18 years, right? You have fun, you go through some experiences, kind of carefree for the most part, even though kids have stress and their world is school, and that's important. But then you work so much. It's like the balance of like you work way more than you have time to actually rest. Like
Your
it
health
doesn't.
and your health and youth is spent
Yeah, and
at
that's why
work.
it's important to appreciate the moments. Like it's time management is so important. And when people don't want to chase stuff, I get it. When they don't want to, dump the
Yeah,
hours and
I
hours it
get it.
takes to chase a passion or a
It's so hard.
business, it doesn't even have to be explained to me. I understand it, man. Because if you're doing this the right way, especially if you don't come from means where like you're not a Trump and you're not a family, that's millionaires and stuff like that,
Yeah,
because those people have the ability financially to set you up to where I can go buy you
coast.
a building. I can go, I can fund your dream,
Mhm.
get you the capital you need to hire employees, and you won't have to go out there and grind it out by yourself the way somebody like us would have to. I don't have the capital to say, Ori, I'm gonna give you a full-time job doing sales calls and doing coding or whatever it is. I don't have that. What does that mean? I got to go out there and grind it out myself. I am the capital. I have to go out there and
Bingo.
stay up till 1, 2 in the morning because I can't afford to hire anybody. So this
That's
is the
me.
reality I live in. And either I accept that and do it, or I just go do the 9 to 5 thing. And there's nothing wrong with either one, but you just have to accept the reality that if you choose the path of business ownership on a small scale or on a large scale, you're gonna have to pay with your time. There's no other choice. There's
Yeah,
just none. Until you get to the point where you're making enough money to where you can hire someone, there's gonna be a long process of pain and doing it yourself. And then eventually, though, if you stick through it, your business grows. You get a
yeah.
couple, managers, supervisors, employees doing some of the stuff, and then you could walk away from it. I
And
got
then
people.
you
There's
can
people
step
in
in. You could have people. You could have the business is running, and your time is yours, and you can meet in a meeting in the morning and go golf midday.
exactly,
Business doesn't
exactly.
need you to run, and that's really my vision, and I'm executing on that. I do envision myself living that life. By the time I'm 60, I'm not working my butt off like that to enjoy my life later in life like that with my money, and then leave my kids with just the way I raised them. I do envision myself in this property. I talk a lot with my wife about our next property. We
Mm-hmm.
will more than likely be a multi-unit property, like maybe a small building or
Mm,
a really big house with like at least 3 apartments or 4 apartments, something like that.
that's awesome.
Um, and then outside of that, obviously, like I already mentioned, there's other business endeavors that maybe I might pursue. I'll tell you what I've learned though, in this home and the purchase and all the DIY stuff I've done. Um, I need to choose. I need to choose whether my next venture, property wise, will require my time and like focus. Because if I do want to pursue that other dream about that other company or whatnot, right? I'm not sure unless I stop working, then I could handle both. I could do the like stop working for my like companies and stuff like that, and just literally code on
Mm-hmm.
the side for my business, and
Mm-hmm.
then work as well. Managing and handling the restoration of my properties and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I could handle both, but I cannot handle three, like a professional job, uh, like starting a coding business with like a team in Dominican Republic, as well as managing and handling day to day management of um, rebuilding or
Yeah,
constructing
you could
properties.
you could do them all, but you're right in terms of the 9 to 5 job with your daily responsibility where you report to somebody else. That's the thing
Yeah,
that has to get cut at some point because
at
you could
some
for
point.
sure do 3, 4, 5 different businesses. People do it all the time. That happens in the United States. You're gonna need employees, but it's
Yeah.
possible. You could be have a real estate business income. You could have a coding income. Um,
Wow, man. I
that's something that's
props to
something.
those people. I'm wondering if they're on drugs.
Nah, you get employed. They probably are, but
A lot of them are.
you have to get employees though. You're not gonna do it yourself. You're not.
I got me something that helps. Coffee.
The coffee.
I'm
Y'all
starting
be
a
drinking
coffee
coffee.
addiction.
Y'all be drinking coffee way too late.
It's
I don't.
getting bad.
We'll play the game at 12 in the morning. Tell us I'm gonna get a coffee. Like what?
Who me, right?
Yeah, I'm like, no. At the
Let me
first
get
time, I
this
don't even
coffee
like
real quick, and
coffee.
then I'll pop off.
I don't even like coffee.
Like, no, it does. It's incredible. I gotta stop.
Yeah, nah, it can't be good. Doesn't it give you kidney stones?
I don't know. I don't drink sugar. It's
Everything gives you
black.
kidney stones. So
It's black coffee usually. And another thing about me, I'm very, 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 very creative at night. After
yeah, no,
midnight,
it's
the
different. You know
monster
what's
comes
funny?
out.
I'm the most creative at night, but I'm the most productive in the morning. So I got to find a way to manage this. Like I can get a
Not
lot of
me.
mundane tasks done early in the morning, but as far as creativity and when I feel like artistic,
Yeah.
it's in the evening. That's when I get my ideas for music, when I get my ideas for videos and stuff like that. But if I got to do any menial stuff, like if I had to cut grass or if I got to do some data entry tasks or something,
The
just
morning.
this mundane stuff, yeah, in the morning I can knock that out and I feel
I
good.
get
And
it.
then I get excited because I'm like, yo, I got all night now to deal with my creative stuff, and I have a blast
Nice.
coming up with skits for videos and different things, and this podcast, different stuff I want to do,
I
and
gotta do
that's
something about it because I need to gain access to this aspect of my brain, my abilities, and try to make it so that it either comes in earlier in the day or in the mornings because it's not sustainable. I've been I've been a soldier when it comes to a lot around the house here, my
mhm.
willpower and how I power through things. Uh, I'm gonna sound like I'm gonna sound like I'm full of myself, but sometimes I do feel like a superhero around here. Like I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, "Yo, what are you on?" Like when you see what I do, yo, I stand back sometimes like, "There's no way I did all this," and it's incredible what pressure and having no other avenue will do. Um, and that's really, I'm talking about my bathroom really right now.
They're not
Um,
the project of remodeling the bathroom.
I remodeled my bathroom and it's been a journey, incredible. I've taken on so many things I didn't know about, nothing, and it's better than a lot of people pay like $10,000 for a bathroom.
Right.
Guess what? I made a better one. Like guess what my bathroom has? Everything, that guy paid like 10,000 for. Like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And the amount of labor that went into that. And
Yeah.
I didn't even really touch on, and I'll touch on this in another episode or whatever. Like
Mhm.
my heating system. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking about that in my social media, like coming up in the next few months. But yeah, like the things I do around this house, man. There has been some moments where I have felt like a superhero.
You
Um,
should you do, to be raising a daughter and to be to provide for your wife emotionally and financially and have that stability. You
yeah,
should. That's what I say. I'm proud of you. It's not even
challenge.
being. I'm not trying to be a cliche about it or whatever. Like, I don't say that often.
Yeah, there's things
You're
I'm.
doing some inspiring stuff. It motivates me. That's why I was talking to you about the bathroom stuff too. It's like if Ori did it and it's not a knock to you, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm like, if he did it, I might be able to do it too.
that's really why I share that stuff because I a lot of the people that hit me up like, well, how do you do this? Like, bro, I went on YouTube, I watched a video, I watched another video, and then I went to Home Depot or Lowe's. I spent like 2 hours looking at the things. Like, so how does this go together?
Hmm.
Ah, people don't know that it takes crazy time investment. But you'll figure it out. A lot of stuff, Home Depot, Lowe's, is made for homeowners,
Right.
especially at Lowe's. Lowe's a lot. Home Depot had a lot of contractors, but if you go to Lowe's, a lot of times Lowe's is a little bit more homeowner friendly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot very like bait for DIY. And the staff generally should be helpful at these places. Take some of these things on because some of them are like, like say something wrong with your toilet, you need to replace it. Anybody can replace a toilet. You just call your cousin. It's heavy, but that's the hard part. You can
Mm-hmm.
replace a toilet with another. Anybody can do that.
It's two bolts.
Yeah, it's 2 bolts. It comes right out. It's got a wax ring
Got the
inside.
waxing at the bottom.
Don't bother buying another one. Just get the rubber one, and that way you won't have to worry about did I put it in right? Does this work? Pause. Um, um,
Oh
but
man.
yeah, but like definitely like I guess so people don't think like I'm some sort of like egomaniac or whatever. Um, I did some things in this house. I took some risks and I overcame, and it was against all odds. My wife was pregnant at the time. I'm talking about my heating system in this case. I didn't have a heating system in this house. We spent 2 winters without a heating system in New Jersey. That sounds crazy. It is crazy.
It was
We
rough.
bit too much. We try to do too much. We try to remodel too much at once. We ran out of money. We had to just cut our losses and then um remodel the apartment upstairs so we could rent it. And when the cold started coming in, we started to realize, yo, we're not gonna have time to redo the heating system downstairs where we live. And so I prepared for that. I got heating units that run off propane, and we survived that way. And then I started to like look into the expense of paying for a new heating system, and it was expensive as all hell. And we didn't have that capital, so I started to look into what could I do to do it myself, and I kind of gave up and started to save up to do it to have someone do it. And I don't know how or where, but the powers that be at Facebook and YouTube, incredible. Something started coming in, like videos about people DIYing this sort of like method to heat your house. What?
Mm-hmm.
With a with a hot with a hot water heater, not a boiler? How does that work? What? How can you heat a house with a hot water heater? Hot water heater people should know. They don't. There's boilers and then there's hot water heaters. Boilers are used to heat homes in New York City or in like northern states. All that banging in the pipes, that's the boiler. You know, old buildings, and then obviously the newer homes have the baseboard heating, which just goes around your home. Uh, those are all using boilers. I never heard of using a hot water heater, which is what you
Right.
shower with to heat a house. Long story short, there's ways, and they're within reach for a DIY person. You don't need to weld anything. The complex parts is making the distribution system, and that's complicated. I had to buy a book. That's where my coding experience and taking on languages I never heard of, computer science languages I never dealt with. And I know for a fact that if I buy a book, I sit down, there's no coding problem. I can't figure out a way to either circumvent or solve.
Right.
And, and this DIY stuff around the house is just a matter of trying to do it and persisting. It'll be costly if you make mistakes, but you'll get it done. You'll figure out a way to either get around it or solve it. And in another episode in the future, maybe we'll delve on that a little bit. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
no,
delve
we'll talk about home ownership
get
and
advice.
best practices and what you
Yeah,
can and can't do on your own.
we'll
It's
focus on
important.
that instead of like the whole career and coding
Yeah, no, because it's all of it, and
and
I appreciate the time, man, to come in here and talk because you know my goal really was to the bottom line is I don't pretend I know everything, even though I might joke around like that. We talked about it earlier about we joke like I'm the best at this and
yeah, I
that the other,
pretend
but
I know whatever I want. I'm Google.
I don't know enough. I don't know enough, and I think it's of value to have these conversations at all levels of life. You know, talk about a little bit of business, talk about what it is to be a dad and a husband and maneuvering through that because that's the stage we're in now. Um, and I do this to seek information. It's more for me for my own personal growth, and
Yeah,
I'm putting it out there because maybe somebody else could take some gems from it and
there's
apply
some
it to
stuff
their
that
life.
some of the personal stuff that we go through that we know about each other, that issues we've gone through. I'm pretty sure like some people are going through because it
Mhm.
can't just be us.
No, it's not. I talk about that all the time. As
And
much as we
marriage
are
challenges.
unique and special, we're not that different. The personalities fit into 6 or 7 different buckets that psychologically been broken down. Like we're unique, but we're not that different from a lot of people out there, the rest of the world. So
Yeah, and the situations in life, they're I'm pretty sure they're similar. You
it's the same
mentioned,
arguments.
yeah,
It's the same adversity at different levels.
yeah,
All of it scales. But either way, we're gonna keep having the conversations, man. It's gonna keep reaching out to people. You're gonna be back up here. I don't know how often we're gonna have people. I don't want to put pressure on anybody. I never reached out and said, "Hey, I need so and so," once a week because I understand the people I'm talking to have lives and careers and stuff.
yeah. But
Um,
you do know that like as long as I don't have like a major project pressing me,
mhm.
I'll try to like either get on gaming with you or whatever you're doing. Like this, I
Yeah,
love this stuff. It's fun to have these conversations. Thank God for Warzone, man, because it's really Warzone that got this moving.
yeah.
Us
For real, it
communicating.
sparked it back up. The regular communication, like two,
Yeah,
3 times a week. There was a minute where we were playing every night, and that was a
yeah,
bit too much.
it was. I wasn't getting anything done around the house.
Yeah, but we got that prestige, and we got a
Yeah, yo, man, is crazy. I don't know what's wrong with us.
I
Why
got
do
a
we
hundred
value
wins in
this?
Warzone.
Why do we value this stuff? I'm better than you. It gets really bad, toxic, and
It gets terrible. It gets
not
terrible.
ready to be.
One day we could bring our guy Jeremy in and we could look at a couple of videos or something
Yeah.
because that would be hilarious to break down
Oh
the
God,
mindset.
yes.
So what were you thinking here when the whole team went left and you went right and then you
Oh
wanted to
man,
lie and say you didn't?
some
Um
teamwork is just not innate. You
no.
know,
No. Some people will try to succeed on their own
yeah.
at the detriment of
Oh,
everybody else around them.
I have that issue. I sacrifice for myself often, and I actually has caused issues with between in my marriage. There's things about
Mhm.
me that I sacrifice, that I'm willing to sacrifice, that and I know we were kind of like tailing off
Yeah, no,
into
we still are, but
end.
get your thought
Hey,
out.
like there's things innate about myself that I'm willing to sacrifice that my wife isn't comforts and things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why like I was saying that some things I regret. Like I do regret putting my wife through that and the house, man. Like it's not it's not that she's scared or afraid of that, but I do recognize that people got to know. People don't know, I guess, our listeners. My wife was a recent immigrant. She only came to the country like 5 years ago. She's
Mhm.
taken on a lot. And
Yeah.
then 3 years into or 2 years into her journey into this country, you buy a house, a fixer upper, and it's causing money issues. And what I mean by money issue is like we don't got money to go on vacations and enjoy a young marriage, right?
Mhm,
Nope.
mhm.
It's old school style.
Yeah.
DR back in the day, PR back in the day, mommy and daddy busting their ass to to make things work. It's nowadays, if you can avoid that, I would say consider it. I'm not gonna say um ignore it, because sometimes you gotta tighten up, your pants, and take on these challenges. There's no choice. Or it might be the best choice, especially when you're young. Um, but if it's avoidable and you can have a way to navigate this issue early on in a relationship, consider postponing or prolonging or slowing down the process so that you can handle it. Like nowadays with the internet, you have a big brother. Like
Mm-hmm.
Orielsy, he's kind of too much of a self starter sometimes. Myself, I'm speaking about myself. I know I don't have an older brother, and I have Jose, I have Tony, and sometimes I'm going through things, and because I don't like sharing some of these issues, I stay to myself. When I was buying this home, I kept it to myself. I didn't tell Jose. I didn't tell, because I was going through something. We kept losing homes. We kept bidding on homes and being told, no, someone else outbid you.
Mm-hmm.
There's an art to buying homes and properties. You can't catch feelings.
Right.
Just keep it business. And this challenge here grew on me, and I took it on. But if I was single, it might have been easier, because the being married introduced uh this level of um timing. Like it introduced a timing, a ticking clock, right, to the whole situation. Like
Yeah, the sense
you're
of
married,
urgency. Yeah.
urgency, right? You marry, you have like the pregnancy. Yo, that is a crazy clock. You got 9 months to like figure all these things out.
Right.
So uh some things, if they can be mitigated, mitigate them. If they can't, buckle down, and don't shy from DIY projects and things like that. Find the time, even if you got to take a 3 month hiatus from gaming, from video gaming. It sucks, but hey, you can do it.
There's a time for everything, man. You can have everything you want, but not at the same time. There's a time for everything, man.
Bingo.
Um, yeah, no, you got to get down and do it, and it's time to be big boys, right? We're grown men, we're adults. Um, Stop complaining that this is the reality you're in. If you Unless you got the money to hire a contractor, you got that much money that you can
Yeah,
tell somebody go do it. I'm not even gonna worry about it. Pull up your pants, go out there and do it yourself, because there's no other choice. That, or let your investment fall apart. Let the house get torn apart. Let it fall to pieces. And then deal with that heartache later.
that sucks. Don't do that.
No, you
Ah,
shouldn't. You shouldn't.
think
But
of
that's
your
your options,
children.
right? Like if you're
Yeah,
gonna complain and say, "Oh, this is too expensive," okay.
think of your
I
children.
Either learn to do it yourself, or
Yeah,
complain and watch it disappear, or make enough money, save money, and go get somebody to do it. It's gonna be expensive.
yeah.
But all we have in this life is time, man. But
All I'm saying is I'm going out like a, what do you call it? A supernova. When I die, pass away, old age, hopefully, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving nothing. I'm leaving legacy. I'm trying to leave some wealth for my children, and yeah, these homes. When I do work, I put my heart and soul. Like I'm thinking of. Oh, I should have mentioned this. Oh man, we didn't even dive into like stuff that makes us passionate and like we identify with. But
we did a little bit, but we got more episodes to do.
yeah,
It's fine. We
there's
can't
there's
milk every
some
conversation right now.
there's some stories that I identify with. Um, some Lord of the Rings things. The writer J.R.R. Tolkien, he touches on some things about human psychology, and some things that are really powerful.
Hmm.
And there are the initial part of Lord of the Rings is fought over some, the whole deal. The Lord of the Rings is fought over wealth. Wealth is the rings and power and things like
Yeah,
that.
the
Yeah.
obsession of power.
So it's always like these physical things that are either powerful or beautiful, to the point where you when men will fight over it. Like Troy, they fight over that lady that was really beautiful, Helen. Um,
Hmm.
and then in the first part of Lord of the Rings, it's called the something of the Cimarrows, something like that.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
There, no, the initial part where before the Fellowship of the Ring, the era before, before
The Hobbit and all that.
before the Hobbit and all that. There's a whole nother like story universe.
Okay.
It's the Cimarals, and it's actually these three beautiful gems that were created that drive these crazy conflicts. But they were created by a elf, and he wasn't a god or nothing. So it wasn't created by a god. It was created by this elf who was the most beautiful things in the world or something like that. And I do envision myself sort of like Feanor, that's his name, creating those gems when I work on something here around my house. I do literally can't get my daughter out of my head. Um,
Mm,
when I'm doing this stuff. Like some guys would say, some people come up to me like, "Aren't you spending too much money on that?" Like, and I think no. Like when I watch programs on people in Europe living in their great grandparents' house that they built 200 plus years ago, I'm thinking, no, I'm not wasting my time. I'm grabbing or not my money. I'm buying good wood. The buck stops with me. You know,
right.
um, that's the way I view it. The buck stops with me when it comes to passing the buck and problems and things like that. I'm
And the great
dying.
and
I'm
some
dying
great
with those
moments.
problems.
Some great moments you're gonna have is when she gets old enough for her to stand next to you while you're doing these things, and you
Yeah,
start
hopefully. Oh,
teaching
yeah, I
her.
envision that.
You start teaching her
I
how
do
to
want
do
to
these
pass that
things on
on.
her own. That's. I get what you're saying, man. The motivation is legacy, and these kids gonna be better. I might
Yeah,
not leave them a ton of money because who knows, the economies go up and down,
yeah,
situations
yeah,
happen. But we definitely want to leave the kids with the right mental attitude and the emotional strength to push through and to have drive and to motivate them to have drive and pursue dreams. That's the thing. If nothing else, for them to have the drive and the mindset that they could do whatever they want to do. And because they saw their parents push and chase what they wanted to do.
right. And
If
you
nothing
want them to
else.
be able to do the same too, so they can have that, so they can do the same with their kids. And they're not gonna be able to unless you show them that it can be,
Hmm.
or they might be able to, but they'll have to hit a lot of those dead ends like I did. And you know, a lot of those dead ends, it's inhuman to expect a human to always overcome, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so you gotta try to do your best to set them on this path that runs into as little many as dead ends as possible. And and you'll see. I think you should have great success, you know, with raising kids. We'll touch on that next time. You know, we didn't even
Yeah.
touch on.
Now we will. We
We'll
will.
touch on relationships, um, home, like home
Now,
ownership,
do we gotta talk about fatherhood, about
fatherhood. We
being
didn't
a
touch on that.
husband.
Yeah, we didn't touch on that. So
Um,
it's crazy.
but it's important, and we'll have those conversations.
Yeah,
But this has been great, man. We talked about a lot of different things. The good thing about this is that I don't expect anybody to necessarily always watch these. It's going to be on
yeah,
Apple. It is on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. I've listened to very long podcasts before, the 3-4 hour stuff, because while I'm in the car, I hear a couple
yeah,
minutes, then I get back in, I hear more minutes audio wise. Video, I don't expect people to sit down and watch it, but for those people that
yeah.
if you got an iPhone or Android, it's going to be there to listen to the audio, and it'll pick right back up wherever you left off.
And not
Um,
only that, but maybe we should consider publishing like snippets.
oh yeah,
You
no,
know?
I'm trying to do at least one for every episode, so there'll be a
Yeah,
snippet of this. And as I get more time, I want to do more snippets and more promotion. Um, because to be honest, this to me is going to be a segue into the platform where I launch my music. That's going to be the end game for this season of what I want to do in business. And we'll talk
right.
about that too. That's something else important to me too. Why I started a whole new LLC, and how that fits in with Tsunami and everything I have going on now too. Um,
Bet.
but we'll say that for the next one, man. I
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate you like
There's so
crazy,
much
man.
more
I
to talk
appreciate the
about.
time.
We could do two
Yeah.
more hours if
Now
because
we're gonna do a bunch more.
we skimmed over a lot of stuff, you know, for
Hmm.
the crowd out here, for the people out here. If anybody's
Yeah.
reading, we skimmed over problems in our relationship and hitting our past, you know, and
Hmm.
coding. There's still so much more that could be discussed about. That's so interesting. We didn't
For
even
the
touch.
next one, and maybe not the next one because it's so many topics. I was gonna try to do it now, but I didn't prepare you for it because I want you to go in through one of the like the Halo thing you did and show the code, and the same thing you did
Yeah,
with me and Jose, where you were like, "Yo, you see this the glowing orbs? I did that," and
yeah.
you showed us how you
I'll
coded it.
prepare. I'll prepare a nice one that's simple, so that it's easy to understand. And
Yeah, no, because
hopefully,
I
maybe
think
who knows? Somebody might be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was that easy. Let me look into this." You
mhm,
never know.
that's the
That's how
point.
I got into web development. I didn't know it was like that, and out of nowhere, it just opened my eyes. Like, oh shoot!
Yeah, no,
A lot of people think a lot of this stuff is rocket science, or that you need a degree or whatever.
it's a
Hell,
skill set. It's a skill set,
it's a
but I
skill.
get your point.
You know,
It can be
passion,
sharpened. Yeah,
passion is really all you need for almost anything, unless it's like astrophysics. And
nah, you need a passion for everything. Is right, but nah, man, this is it for now, man. We'll call it a night. I appreciate you like crazy, man. We'll be back in
Right.
touch doing more of these. And that's it for now, bro. We'll take it easy until the next time.
Yeah, we'll be in touch until obviously we'll be talking, but until next time for everybody else out there.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Take it easy.